Hello, welcome back to the Bug Out channel. Now join me today here in the Bug Out parachute shelter. Now today's video is all about the new Bushcraft knives from Bushcraft. Is a sub £50 Bushcraft knife any good? Let's find out. Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for clicking on and taking the time to watch the videos. Right, Bushcraft knives. I was approached by Bushcraft over in Ukraine about stocking the Bushcraft Bushcraft knives. So they sent me a few knives to check out and put through their paces. On my previous video, I've used these, battening woods, food preps, starting fires, all that sort of stuff. But today I'm just going to have a bit more of a talk and a bit of a run through with the knives. Now those who are into wood carving and bushcraft might have heard of Bushcraft already. They do a good wood carving set and wood carving knives. But they brought out this range of bushcraft knives now as well. So first impressions, they look the part. Really nice leather sheath. Not as thick and as sturdy, as rigid as other leather sheaths you get out there. But a good quality anyway. And yeah, little dangler on it. And the good thing about this dangler, you can undo it. It's got a little popper. So you haven't got to take your belt off, you can just slip this through, pop it on, and then just hang it on your side. The downside with the sheaves at the moment and the danglers, that they are all right-handed. So the knives they sent me to have a look at are the BS-H1, the BS-H2, slightly smaller, and the BS-H3. Now all the knives are 1066 carbon steel, but the BS-H3 does have a coating on it, but all three knives have this nice walnut handle which can be removed or replaced. But all the knives are full tang, as bushcraft knives should be, and a solid piece of steel. Very ergonomic, it's a big word, and they fit in the hand really nice, especially this BHS1. It's got a slightly curved handle, and that's a real nice feel to that. I like this one. Now the grind itself on the knives is like a Scandi grind. When they're new in the box, they do come really sharp, and they do have a nice mirror finish. But I have used these in my previous video. I put a bit of sandpaper to clean them off and oil them up. But when you do get a new one, like I say, when you open the box, they have a real nice mirror finish. Now the steel itself is not as thick, and the knife is not as heavy duty as some of the bushcraft knives out there. But the best thing about these knives, they're about 40 quid. A £40 bushcraft knife. Now a lot of people might turn their nose up at this, saying it's, you know, it can't be any good if it's only £40. Knife snobbery, like any kit snobbery really, I'm not into that. It doesn't matter if it's not the best gear or what people presume is the best gear. You just get what you can afford and what does the job. It might be a £10 knife, it might be a £200 knife. Who cares, isn't it? So-called experts, they're telling you should get this knife, you should get that knife. I was a military chef for years, and then I've been in the building trade for over 20 years, so I've been using knives on a daily basis for years.
Cool, you're awesome.
And I found out over the years, every knife has got a particular job, what it's suited for. It doesn't matter how much it costs, as long as you keep a good edge on it, it'll do the job, and that's it. And like I say, I used these knives last week in my previous video, so I did get them a bit dirty, and I did some wood battening, some food prep. I even did a bit of bushcraft, making my pot holders, and yeah, they performed really well. Plus I used them with my ferro rod, and we got a really good spark off them. So I did have to clean them up a bit and put the edge back on. And talking of which, I use my old oil stone. It's probably about 40 years old. But I do use wet stones as well, dry stones, and the diamond sharpeners. But all I've done with these is really put a strop on it. So a little bit of stropping paste and a leather strop. And that was enough to just put the edge back on. Now if you are sharpening your knives and you're a bit worried about it, there's a lot of videos out there to show you how to sharpen your knives and look after your knives. There's a lot of people out there on these videos telling you have to do it this way or you have to do it that way. Now a lot of these so-called experts on YouTube probably only know what they've seen on other videos anyway. So don't panic over it. Just get your own method and just have a go at practicing it. As long as you put an edge on it, you're fine. But a good leather strop is an ideal way just to keep the edge on it. Right, that's enough about the sharpening. Let's get on to the rope test. Now before we do the rope test, I'll just go through some of the dimensions. So the BS-H1, so the overall length is 270mm, with the blade being 125mm. Now the BS-H2 has an overall length of 240mm, with the blade being 105mm by 26mm. And the BS-H3 has an overall length of 245mm, with the blade being 120mm by 45. So slightly deeper blade than the others. and like I say, as is finish. Right, so the first test I'm going to do is a rope test. Now I could get a massive rope, tug-of-war rope, you know, and slice through it, but how often are you going to cut the rope that size? The test I'm going to do is something that you might use on a day-to-day basis if you're doing a bit of bushcraft or out in the field. So the first rope test is just this 10mm nylon rope. You might use this for ridge lines, tying down shelters, and then obviously you need to cut it. So we'll start off with the BSH1, the bigger of the three knives. First thing, will it cut? Yes. What I'll do now, put a bit of rope on the log and see if it'll cut through that. Just chop it. Yeah. The BSH2. And finally the BSH3. Yeah, cut through that rope, no problem at all. Now if we cut through a rope, it should cut through the paracord. So we'll just give it a quick test. Yeah. So them ropes are more the likely sort of ropes you're going to use when you're out in the field or doing a bit of bushcraft. I'm sure it'll cut thicker ropes, but like I say, it's not very often you're going to use ropes much thicker than that. So why bother testing it? Now the next test is, can you strike a ferro rod with it, or fire steel, whatever you want to call it. Now all the blades have a really good 90-degree spine, and I have used these, like I said in my previous video, of starting a fire with a spark, and it's done it very well. But just to show you again, so this is a fire steel of mine under my kit. So I'll try the BSH1 first. The BSH2. And finally the BSH3. So there you can see you produce a spark, no problem at all, this ferro rod. And as you can see in my last video, I managed to start a fire with it, no problem at all, with the feather sticks. So talk about feather sticks, next test we'll do some bit of battening and then perhaps make some feather sticks at the end. Let's crack on with that. Now the next test, like I say, is wood processing. So when you're out in the field, out in the woods, if you're wild camping, doing a bit of bushcraft or whatever you're doing, you need firewood if you want to fire. So once you're sawing your wood up, you've got to process it, chop it down into smaller pieces. That's where battening comes into. So basically, splitting the wood down the middle into smaller and smaller pieces. So you want to put your knife on the top of your piece of wood, you want to process and then hit the hell out of it with your makeshift hammer. Something like this. Well, that was BSH1. We'll try the BSH2, smaller version. Yeah, no problem. Now the BSH3. I'll split that down, no problem at all. Now I'll split these down into smaller and smaller pieces, then we'll make some feather sticks. Now, bushcraft knives. Obviously you want to do a bit of bushcraft with them. So just check this clip where I took the knives for the first time. I've done a bit of bushcrafty things. I'm no bushcraft expert, I don't pretend to be. But I made a pot hanger and a couple of little bits and bobs on the campsite using these knives, like I say, and putting them through their paces. Yeah, like I've shown with the pot hanger, and rounding off them poles, putting notches on, whatever. They've done the job, no problem at all. Now another quick test I want to do is just see how strong the tips are on these knives. They look pretty robust, but I'm just going to jam them a few times into these big lumps of willow. Yeah, it's not the hardest wood in the world, but they've been here for quite a few years, so they're pretty hard. So what I'm going to do is just jab the tip in a few times and then see if there's any damage. Yeah, all very good. No damage. The blade's still straight as a die. It's an odd test, I know. It's not something you'd actually do with your knives on a day-to-day basis. It's just to test the overall strength of the tip of the knife. So all three, pass. Now we all love a ration pack in the body and the bag meals, but sometimes when you're out you want to cook a meal with fresh ingredients. So that's the next test. In my last video I cooked up a couple of meals and I used these knives to cut a few onions, mushrooms and all that sort of stuff, and yeah, no problem at all. But today, as we've just done some more wood processing, cutting cordage or whatever, we'll just see how good the knives are for keeping their edge. And we'll slice a few onions, tomatoes and potatoes, and whether they all slice through them food items, no problem at all. And hopefully my culinary skills are still up to the task. Right, we'll just take a tomato first thing, and I use each knife on each food item and we'll just slice it through. Yeah, there's a good edge on that. Still slicing it real thin. Yeah, quite pleased with that. Look how thin that slices it. That'll go in a nice cheese and tomato sandwich, no problem at all. Try the onion. Yeah, again, all three knives, slicing that, no problem at all. Nice and thin. Now let's just chop a couple of potatoes up. Slice them up. Yeah, that's slicing that nice and thin. Yeah, really good. That'll cut your chips or your crisps, anything you want. Well, there we are. We just showed that even though the Scandi grind is not the best for food processing if you want fine slices, but I managed to do that no problem at all. Whether it's the knives or it's just my skill, who knows. But the knives certainly cut them, and they certainly done the job. So yeah, very impressed. There is one more test that I like to try out. So if you imagine you may be in the middle of nowhere, freezing cold, being chased by the National Guard, and all you got is a Hessian sack. Will it turn this into a garment, Rambo style? Let's find out. Yeah, so I've done that as well. So yeah, you know, if you was out in the cold, getting chased down, and all you had is a Hessian sack, you could take one of these knives and fashion yourself a very lovely garment and belt. Well, there we are, guys. My final thoughts about the Bushcraft knives. Yeah, brilliant, especially for the money. Yes, there's better knives out there, more expensive knives, more heavy duty, but where else can you get a really good Bushcraft knife and leather sheath for 40 quid? All three knives done all the jobs I've asked of them. And these knives are not just for bushcraft, you can use these for any jobs around the camp, if you're fishing, hunting, whatever you're doing, anything outdoors. They look the part, they feel really nice in your hand, but all in all, a very good knife, especially for the money. So keep tuned, hopefully you're going to see these in the bug out very soon. Well, thanks for watching, guys, hope you liked the video. If you did, please like and subscribe. If you want to check out some more videos, that's a good one. And that one. And like I say, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. All the best.